And Claire, this is such an important body of reporting for us to have on our brains as we begin this process, right? Because we are surrounded by brilliant attorneys and prosecutors who are going to make sense of the legal machinations, right? We're going to understand the motions, we're going to understand the rulings, we're going to understand the pressures bearing down on Alvin Bragg and Judge Juan Merchan. What we need to keep in mind is that for Trump, this is all political. And the political defense isn't, I didn't do it, isn't when you're president, you can sleep with Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels. The defense is they're only coming after me for these things. And whether or not I did it doesn't matter because they're the deep state and because I'm the victim. He's a victim of nothing. And in this instance, the victim is the entire electorate in 2016, his own supporters included, who were denied access to the truth because Trump assembled a conspiracy to catch and kill negative stories about himself and then was reckless enough, really, if I understand all of Sue Craig's reporting, to not do it in a way that could remain concealed. There might have been a way, a smarter criminal might not have. I mean, he's on trial because the way he hid the hush money payments got him nailed. And the facts of this are just going to be so important to keep front and center for those of us still residing on Earth One.
Yeah, it's very hard, I think, for those who are on Earth One to actually see clearly Earth Two. And I think it's important that we don't lose sight of those people. They are the victims. There's two victims in this case. The first are the people that are believing this man. And the more he repeats, the more they believe it. And secondly, the victim is the system, our criminal justice system, the rule of law in this country, the way he is abusing the process to make it look like he is somehow being treated differently, when in reality, he is being treated the same or perhaps much better than most people who would have encountered the same set of facts. So I got to tell you, this jury selection is going to take a while. They are, keep in mind that each side, Charles will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think each side gets 10 what we call peremptory challenges, which are they can pick 10 jurors that they don't like and they can remove them from the jury. So if you take 10 apiece, that's 20. We're down to less than 20 jurors. There's no way. They're going to have to start this process all over again with more people before this is over with. And this is the whole ballgame, Nicole. I believe very strongly in this, and I've said it from the very beginning. All he needs is one. All he needs is one juror for a hung jury. And then he gets to say, see, I told you so. Now, he wouldn't be acquitted, but he wouldn't be convicted. And that would be the fuel he needs for his rocket, his victim express, to carry him, he believes, all the way to the first Tuesday in November.
Charles, you've been invoked.
I think that Claire's instincts are absolutely right. And one of the concerns that I've had as someone who is an agent of the court, is the notion that we could end up with a stealth juror. And for those people who don't know, a stealth juror...
Explain that, yeah. I thought that only happened in movies.
No, absolutely not. A stealth juror is someone who goes in with their mind already made up, but acts as though they can be fair and impartial so that they can get on the jury. They lie during the course of voir dire. So they'll tell the jury, they'll tell the court and the other attorneys, I can be fair and impartial, so that they can get on the jury and ultimately...
So do the questions for me. What would they say? They'd say, I watch MSNBC.
They would say, I watch MSNBC and CNN as well as Fox News. I don't really follow... Or they might say, conversely, even better, they might say, I don't really follow the news. I don't know much about this case. I'm not very politically astute or active. I've voted before, but... there's no question. I didn't donate for Donald Trump to his campaign. I don't have any strong feelings about Donald Trump. I don't have any relatives in law enforcement. So they make it seem as though they are very middle of the road. So there's no real reason for cause, absolutely not, to be struck. And in terms of the preemptory challenges that Claire talked about, there's nothing there that I've given a red flag to either side that would cause you to X me out. And so now I've gotten on the jury, but I've already made up my mind. My whole point was to get on the jury to either I'm going to make sure Donald Trump gets convicted no matter what the state does or does not do. If they meet their burden or if they don't, I'm still going to vote for a conviction. Or conversely, I'm never, ever going to convict Donald Trump because I'm such a Donald Trump supporter. I think that not only in this case, but in every single case that we're facing. Listen, I understand that he lost the popular vote, but there were still 74 million people who voted for this man. So statistically, it's not the most absurd of things that you just can find one juror who's willing to be a stealth. And that's the thing that concerns me, because there are ways as a former prosecutor I can tell you try to sniff those things out, but it's hard, especially if someone's good and committed to it. So it's going to be a very interesting process. This is a long jury questionnaire. I thought one of the things that was most interesting to me, Nicole, about the questionnaire is there's a separate question asking whether you believe in QAnon, whether you're aligned with the Three Percenters, the Proud Boys, or Antifa. And that's separate and apart from where do you get your news and what do you listen to. The reason why I find that interesting is because as a former prosecutor, I can tell you, you will use things like their news source to decide whether you want to use a preemptory challenge. But the fact that those questions are separate suggests to me that the judge is willing to excuse someone who identifies as QAnon or Antifa or Proud Boys for cause. And that's a big deal because it means that you're not wasting any of your preemptory challenges, which is what it comes down to, because they're limited. And so you have to make some tough calls. Yes.
What is your sense from your reporting on how sort of prepared they are for this scenario of a stealth juror?
They've got to be very prepared, and they're there. I mean, I have somebody that I know who showed up on March 25th hoping to get on the jury and was talking about it. I mean, there's people who know this is going on. When the jurors walked into the courtroom today, you know, we were getting reports back. They were all looking over at Donald Trump. There was people who smiled. You know, everybody knows who he is, and everybody wants to be for different reasons. A lot of people, I won't say everyone, a lot of people want to be part of this. Some people want nothing to do with it.
The 50.
the 50 that ran for the exits, but there are people who, you know, would like to get on the jury. When it was interesting, one thing that happened in the courtroom, you know, it's an anonymized jury. We couldn't see them from the room that we were in, and separately the judge. So we know them by number, but Donald Trump's legal team knows who they are. Donald Trump will have access to it. And so, well, the government lawyers, but they were told they were going to get the list. They're going to know who they are. They're not allowed to take pictures of that list, copy it in any way, and at the end of the day, it has to be returned. So the judge is going to extraordinary measures to make sure that these names don't get out.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.